They called her a murderer. They said she burned her husband alive and smiled while he screamed. The town of El Colo wanted Evelyn Hart dead, or at least broken enough to disappear. But she refused to run. Instead, she dragged timber up a frozen mountain with bare hands and built a cabin from spite and splinters. Then Cole Barrett made the mistake every man fears. He chose the wrong woman to help. The scarred widow, the one everyone whispered about, the one who might actually be innocent. And in a town that thrives on lies, truth is the most dangerous thing you can speak. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The mud was the kind that swallowed Boots whole. Cole Barrett stood at the tree line watching a woman he'd never met try to kill herself through stubbornness. She couldn't have weighed more than 120 pounds soaked through, but she was dragging a pine log that looked like it weighed 3 times that. The log caught on rocks. It sank into the mud. It rolled sideways and nearly crushed her leg, and she just reset her grip and kept pulling. Her hands were bleeding. He could see that from 50 yards away. Cole didn't move. Not yet. He'd learned a long time ago that some people would rather die than accept help from a stranger, and the woman in front of him looked like she'd already made peace with dying. The October wind cut across the mountainside hard enough to sting. The aspens were half naked already, their leaves scattered across the trail like gold coins nobody wanted. Winter was coming early this year. Everyone in El Colo had been saying it for weeks. The animals knew it. The sky knew it. And this fool woman dragging timber up a mountain alone knew it too, which made what she was doing either brave or insane. Cole was leaning toward insane. She made it another 10 feet before the log wedged between 2 boulders and refused to move. She pulled. She kicked at it. She threw her whole body weight against it, and the log didn't budge. Finally, she stopped and just stood there in the freezing mud, breathing hard, her shoulders shaking. Cole waited for her to cry. She didn't. Instead, she wiped her face with the back of her hand, looked at the sky like she was asking it a question, and started digging at the mud around the boulder with her bare fingers. That's when Cole stepped out of the trees. "You're going to lose those fingers if you keep that up." She spun around so fast she nearly fell. Her hand went to her coat pocket, reaching for a weapon, he figured, and her eyes locked on him with the kind of look a cornered animal gets right before it bites. "I'm not here to hurt you," Cole said, keeping his hands visible, "just passing through." "Then keep passing," she said. Her voice was rough, like she hadn't used it in a while. "Hard to do that when I'm watching someone freeze to death in front of me." "I'm not freezing." "You're shaking." "That's anger, not cold." Cole almost smiled. Almost. "Anger won't finish that cabin before the snow comes." Her jaw tightened. She had a scar that ran from her left temple down to her chin, thick and jagged like someone had tried to peel her face off. It was the kind of scar that made people stare, then look away fast. Cole didn't look away. "I didn't ask for your opinion," she said. "No, you didn't. So why are you still here?" "Because I'm trying to figure out if you're stubborn or stupid." Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me? That log's too heavy for one person. You know it. I know it. But you're up here alone dragging it through mud instead of asking for help. So either you're too stubborn to ask or too stupid to know you need it. Or maybe I just don't want help from men who think they know everything." "I don't know everything," Cole said. "But I know timber. I know mountains. And I know you're about 3 weeks away from the first real snow, which means you've got no time to waste playing pride games with a pine log." She stared at him for a long moment. Her hand was still in her pocket. "Who are you?" "Cole Barrett. I run cattle south of here." "The widower." "That's right." "I heard about you," she said. "They say you don't talk to people anymore." "They say a lot of things. They say your wife died in childbirth, and you've been half dead ever since." Cole felt the old familiar tightness in his chest, the one that showed up every time someone mentioned Sarah. "They say anything else?" "They say you're mean." "I am mean." She blinked. "You're admitting it?" "Why wouldn't I? It's true." For the first time, something that might have been amusement flickered across her face. "Most men lie about that kind of thing." "I'm not most men." "No," she said quietly. "I don't think you are." The wind picked up again, colder this time. Cole could smell snow in it. "Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But soon." "You got a name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Evelyn." Evelyn Hart? Her whole body went stiff. You've heard of me. Everyone's heard of you. Then you know why I don't want your help. I know what people say, Cole said. Doesn't mean I believe it. You should. Why? Because it's easier that way. Cole looked at the half-built cabin behind her. It was rough work, walls uneven, gaps between the logs big enough to let the wind through. But it was work, real work, the kind that took guts and desperation in equal measure. You build that yourself? He asked. Yes. How long you been at it? 3 weeks. You know how to notch logs? I'm learning. You know how to chink the gaps? I'll figure it out. You got a roof plan? I'll figure that out too. Cole shook his head. You're gonna die up here. Maybe, Evelyn said, but at least I'll die free. There was something in the way she said it, something raw and final, that made Cole understand. This wasn't about building a cabin. This was about building a life away from people who wanted to destroy her, and she'd rather freeze to death alone than go back to whatever she'd left behind. He respected that. I'll make you a deal, Cole said. I don't make deals with strangers. Good instinct. But hear me out anyway. He nodded toward the cabin. I'll help you finish that before the snow comes. Walls, roof, chimney, everything you need to survive the winter. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. What do you want in return? Meals while I'm working, a place to sleep if the weather turns, and maybe someone to talk to who doesn't look at me like I'm supposed to be over it by now. Over what? My wife. My son. All of it. Evelyn studied him carefully. People say that about me too, that I should be over it, that I should move on. Over what? My husband burning to death in front of me. Cole didn't flinch. Did you kill him? Does it matter? To me, no. To you, probably. She looked at him for a long time like she was trying to figure out if he was real or just another man playing games. Finally, she pulled her hand out of her pocket. No weapon. Just torn-up fingers covered in mud and blood. Why would you help me? She asked. Because I'm tired, Cole said. Tired of pretending I care what people think. Tired of being alone. Tired of acting like everything's fine when it's not. That's not a reason to help someone. It's the only reason that matters. Evelyn looked at the cabin, then back at him. I can't pay you. I don't want money. I can't give you anything else either. I'm not asking for anything else. Then what's the catch? No catch, Cole said. Just work. Honest work. And maybe at the end of it, we both get through the winter without losing our minds. The wind howled through the trees, colder now. Cole could see Evelyn thinking, weighing her options. Trust him and risk being hurt. Refuse him and risk freezing to death. Neither option was good. 3 rules, she said finally. Let's hear them. 1. You don't ask me about the fire. Fair. 2. You don't touch me without permission. Wouldn't dream of it. 3. If I tell you to leave, you leave. No questions, no arguments. Cole nodded. Deal. Evelyn looked at him one more time, then turned back to the log. Then help me move this damn thing before I break my back. They worked until the light failed. The log was even heavier than it looked, and it took both of them plus a makeshift lever system to get it unstuck and up the hill. By the time they got it positioned against the cabin wall, Evelyn's hands were shaking so bad she could barely hold the axe. That's enough for today, Cole said. I can keep going. You can also collapse. Doesn't mean you should. She looked like she wanted to argue, but her body betrayed her. Her knees buckled slightly, and she had to catch herself against the cabin wall. Stubborn, Cole muttered. You already said that. Bears repeating. Evelyn shot him a look, but there was no real heat in it. She was too tired. They both were. Inside the cabin, there was a small fire burning in a pit she'd dug in the center of the dirt floor. No chimney yet, so the smoke just kind of hovered near the ceiling and leaked out through the gaps in the walls. It wasn't much, but it was warm. Evelyn had supplies stacked in the corner: flour, salt, dried beans, a few cans of peaches. Not enough to last the winter, but enough to get started. You cook? Cole asked. I survived this long, didn't I? That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. Cole watched as she pulled out a dented pot and started mixing something that might have been biscuit dough. Her hands were steadier now, but he could see the exhaustion in every movement. "How long you been up here?" he asked. "Since the beginning of October." "By yourself?" "Yes." "No visitors?" Evelyn's jaw tightened. "A few. At first." "At first?" "They stopped coming when I made it clear I wasn't interested in their kind of help." Cole didn't ask what that meant. He could guess. They ate in silence. The biscuits were hard and flavorless, but they were hot, and that was enough. Afterward, Evelyn wrapped herself in a blanket and sat near the fire, while Cole checked the walls for weak points. "You don't have to do that tonight," she said. "Might as well. I'm already here." "You're not staying." "Didn't plan to, but the trail's dangerous in the dark, and I'm not interested in breaking my neck for pride." Evelyn frowned. "There's only one blanket." "I'll be fine. You'll freeze." "I've frozen before." She stared at him like he was an idiot, which he probably was. Finally, she sighed and tossed him half the blanket. "Don't get any ideas," she said. "Wouldn't dream of it." They sat on opposite sides of the fire, wrapped in their respective halves of the blanket, not talking. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, the fire crackled, and for the first time in months, Cole didn't feel quite so alone. Hey, he woke up to the sound of someone crying. At first, he thought he'd imagined it. The cabin was dark except for the dying embers of the fire, and Evelyn was on the far side of the room, her back to him. But her shoulders were shaking, and she was making these small, choked sounds like she was trying not to be heard. Cole didn't move. He just lay there, staring at the ceiling, pretending to be asleep. She cried for maybe 10 minutes. Then she stopped, wiped her face, and went back to sleep like nothing had happened. Cole didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, they didn't talk about it. They just got to work. Cole started by teaching Evelyn how to properly notch the logs so they'd fit together without gaps. She was a fast learner, faster than he expected, and within an hour she was doing it herself. "You've done this before," Cole said. "No." "You sure?" "I think I'd remember building a cabin." "Then you're just naturally good at it." Evelyn shrugged. "Or maybe I'm just desperate enough to learn fast." "That'll do it." They worked through the morning and into the afternoon, stopping only when the sun was directly overhead and the heat made the work unbearable. Evelyn made more biscuits, still terrible, and they ate them while sitting on a fallen log overlooking the valley below. "Why'd you come up here?" Cole asked. "I told you I needed a place to—" "No, I mean, why? You could have gone anywhere, could have left the territory entirely, but you came up here, to the worst possible place to build a cabin, right before winter. Why?" Evelyn was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Because I wanted them to see." "See what?" "That they didn't break me." Cole understood that. He understood it more than he wanted to admit. "Did it work?" he asked. "I don't know yet." They finished eating in silence, then went back to work. By the end of the week, they had a rhythm. Cole would arrive at sunrise with tools and supplies he'd brought from his ranch. Evelyn would have coffee waiting, terrible coffee, but coffee nonetheless. They'd work until midday, eat something barely edible, then work until the light failed. They didn't talk much, didn't need to. The work said everything, but slowly, in the spaces between hammer strikes and log placements, they started to learn each other. Evelyn was left-handed. She hated beans. She sang sometimes when she thought Cole wasn't listening, old songs in a language he didn't recognize. She had nightmares every night, but she never mentioned them, and Cole never asked. Cole was right-handed. He didn't eat much. He worked like a man trying to outrun something, fast and relentless and just a little bit reckless. He talked to his dead wife sometimes when he thought Evelyn was asleep, quiet conversations with someone who wasn't there anymore. Neither of them mentioned these things. They just kept building. Pantuk. The first snow came on a Tuesday. It wasn't much, just a dusting that melted by noon, but it was a warning. Winter was coming, and they were running out of time. "We need to finish the roof," Cole said, staring at the sky. "I know." "And the chimney." "I know." "And chink every gap in these walls, or you're going to freeze to death in your sleep." "I know," Evelyn snapped, then quieter. "I know." Cole looked at her, really looked at her. She was thinner than she'd been a week ago, and there were dark circles under her eyes that hadn't been there before. She was working herself to death, and she knew it, and she didn't care. "When's the last time you slept?" he asked. "Last night? How long?" "Long enough." "Evelyn, don't. Don't what?" "Don't act like you care." "I'm here, aren't I? You're here because you're bored, because you're lonely, because you've got nothing better to do than help the crazy widow everyone hates." Cole stepped closer. "You think I'd waste 3 weeks of my life on someone I didn't give a damn about?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because everyone else has." The words hung in the air between them, sharp and true. Cole wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she was wrong, but he couldn't because she wasn't. "I'm not everyone else," he said finally. "Prove it." "How?" Evelyn looked at him with those hard, tired eyes. "Stay." "I am staying." "No, I mean stay. Through the winter. Help me finish this place, then stay and make sure I don't die when the real cold comes." Cole felt something shift in his chest. "You're asking me to move in." "I'm asking you to keep your word. You said you'd help me finish this cabin. Well, it's not finished, and it won't be finished by the time the snow comes. So if you meant what you said, you'll stay." "What about your rules?" "What about them?" "You said if you told me to leave, I'd leave. No questions." "I'm not telling you to leave," Evelyn said. "I'm telling you to stay." Cole looked at the cabin, looked at the valley below, looked at the woman in front of him who was either the bravest or the most foolish person he'd ever met. "Okay," he said. Evelyn blinked. "Okay? I'll stay." "Just like that?" "Just like that." She studied him carefully, like she was waiting for the catch. When she didn't find one, she nodded once and went back to work. Cole watched her go, then looked at the sky again. Winter was coming, and for the first time in years, he wasn't facing it alone. Kolchek. They finished the roof 3 days before the first real storm hit. It wasn't pretty. The shingles were uneven, and the pitch was probably too steep, but it was solid. Cole tested it himself, climbing up and jumping on the weakest points while Evelyn watched from below, ready to yell at him if he fell. He didn't fall. "It'll hold," he said, climbing down. "You sure?" Sure enough. Evelyn looked at the cabin with something that might have been pride. "We did it." "You did it. I just helped." "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Minimize what you did. You saved my life. The least you can do is take credit for it." Cole didn't know what to say to that, so he didn't say anything. That night, the storm hit. It came fast and mean, the kind of storm that turns the world white in minutes and doesn't stop until it's buried everything. The wind screamed through the trees, the snow fell so thick you couldn't see 3 feet in front of your face, and inside the cabin, Cole and Evelyn sat by the fire and listened to the world try to kill them. "You think it'll hold?" Evelyn asked. "The roof? Yeah." "What about the walls?" "They'll hold too." "You don't sound sure." "I'm not sure about anything," Cole said. "But I'm here, and you're here, and the cabin's still standing. That's enough for now." Evelyn pulled her blanket tighter around her shoulders. "What happens if it's not enough?" "Then we deal with it when it happens." "That's not much of a plan." "It's the only plan we've got." The fire crackled, the wind howled, and somewhere in the middle of it all, Evelyn started laughing. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes when you've got nothing left to lose and everything left to prove. "What's funny?" Cole asked. "This," Evelyn said, gesturing at the cabin. "All of this. A month ago I was sleeping in the dirt. Now I'm sitting in a cabin I built with my own hands, listening to a stranger tell me everything's going to be fine while the world tries to bury us alive. You think that's funny?" "I think it's insane." "Yeah," Cole said. "It is." They sat in silence for a while, watching the fire burn down to embers. "Cole?" Evelyn said quietly. "Yeah?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For not asking questions." Cole looked at her, at the scar on her face, at the way she held herself like she was always ready to run or fight, at the exhaustion in her eyes that never quite went away. "You're welcome," he said. And for the first time since Sarah died, Cole Barrett felt like maybe, just maybe, he'd done something that mattered. The storm lasted 3 days. When it finally stopped, the world outside was unrecognizable. Snow covered everything. The trees, the trail, the valley below. The cabin was buried halfway up the walls, and the door wouldn't open until Cole kicked it 6 times. But they were alive, and the cabin had held. "We need supplies," Evelyn said, staring at the empty shelves. "I know. How long can we last on what we have?" "A week, maybe less." "Then we need to go to town." Cole felt his stomach drop. "Evelyn, I know what you're going to say, but we don't have a choice. We need food. We need medicine. We need things we can't get up here." "I can go alone." "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm tired of hiding," Evelyn said. "I'm tired of letting them win. I built this cabin. I survived. And I'm not going to let them take that away from me by being too afraid to show my face." "It's not about fear." "Yes, it is," Evelyn said. "It's about fear, theirs and mine, and I'm done letting fear make my decisions." Cole wanted to argue, wanted to tell her it was a bad idea, but he'd seen that look before, on Sarah's face, right before she'd made a decision he couldn't talk her out of. "Okay," he said. "We'll go together." "You don't have to." "I said we'll go together." Evelyn looked at him, and something in her expression softened. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Cole said. "Wait till we see how bad it gets." "Why?" They left at dawn 2 days later. The trail was treacherous, ice hidden under fresh snow, branches weighted down and ready to snap. It took them twice as long as it should have to reach the valley, and by the time they got there, both of them were exhausted. Elk Hollow sat in the valley like a wound that wouldn't heal. It was a small town, maybe 300 people on a good day, built around a single main street lined with shops and a church that loomed over everything like a judge. The buildings were painted white, the streets were clean, and everyone who lived there believed they were better than they actually were. Cole hated it. Evelyn hated it more. They tied their horses outside the general store and went inside. The reaction was immediate. Conversation stopped. People stared. A woman with a baby actually backed away, like Evelyn carried some kind of disease. "Ignore them," Cole muttered. "I am." But Cole could see her hands shaking. They bought what they needed: flour, salt, sugar, coffee, dried meat, beans. The storekeeper didn't say a word, just rang up their purchases with a face like he'd swallowed something rotten. They were almost out the door when someone spoke. Well, look who decided to show her face." Cole turned. Edgar Vance stood in the doorway, blocking their exit. He was a big man, soft around the middle but strong in the shoulders, with the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. "Mr. Vance?" Evelyn said quietly. "Mrs. Hart," Vance said. "Or should I call you the Widow Hart? I can never remember which title you prefer." "I prefer you move," Evelyn said. "I'm sure you do. But we need to talk." "No, we don't." "I think we do." Vance looked at Cole. "And you are?" "Cole Barrett." "Ah, the rancher. I've heard about you." Vance's smile widened. "Heard you've been spending a lot of time up on the mountain with Mrs. Hart here. People are starting to talk." "Let them talk," Cole said. "Oh, I will. But I thought you should know what they're saying. They're saying you've lost your mind, that you've thrown away your reputation to help a woman who murdered her husband." "I didn't murder anyone," Evelyn said. "That's not what the town thinks. The town doesn't know anything." "The town knows what it saw," Vance said. "It saw your house burn. It saw your husband die. And it saw you walk away without a scratch." "I didn't walk away. I was dragged away." "Details." Evelyn's hands clenched into fists. "Get out of my way." "Or what? You'll burn me too?" Cole stepped forward. "Move." Vance looked at him, and something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "You really want to do this, Barrett? You really want to ruin yourself for her?" "I'm not ruining anything." "Yes, you are. And when you finally realize it, don't come crying to me." Vance stepped aside, and Cole and Evelyn walked past him into the street. Behind them, Cole heard Vance say, "This isn't over." Evelyn didn't respond. She just kept walking. But Cole could see her shaking, and this time he knew it wasn't from the cold. They were loading their supplies onto the horses when the preacher found them. Silas Boone was a thin man with a thin face and a voice like broken glass. He wore black from head to toe and carried a Bible like a weapon. Mrs. Hart, he said. A word. No, Evelyn said. I wasn't asking. I don't care. Boone's eyes narrowed. You should care. You should care very much about what people think of you. Why? They already think the worst. Because they know the truth. They don't know anything. They know you killed your husband. Evelyn stopped loading the horse and turned to face him. I tried to save him. From a fire you started. I didn't start it. Then how did it start? I don't know. Convenient. It's the truth. The truth, Boone said, is that you are a sinner, a murderer, a woman who has brought shame upon this town and refuses to repent. Cole stepped between them. That's enough. Boone looked at him like he was an insect. And you, helping her, protecting her, do you know what that makes you? I don't care. You should, because when she destroys you, and she will, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. I'll take my chances. Boone smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You're a fool, Mr. Barrett, but then again, fools rarely realize it until it's too late. He turned and walked away, his black coat trailing behind him like a shadow. Evelyn stood there, shaking. We should go, Cole said. Not yet. Evelyn, not yet. She walked to the center of the street and stopped. People were watching from windows, from doorways, from the church steps. Evelyn looked at all of them, one by one, her chin raised. You want to know the truth? She called out. Fine. Here it is. My husband was a drunk. He beat me. He burned our house down while he was trying to hurt me. I tried to save him, and he died anyway, and I'm not sorry I survived. The street was silent. I didn't kill him, Evelyn continued. But I won't apologize for living. I won't apologize for building a life. And I won't apologize for refusing to die just because it makes you comfortable. She turned to Cole. Let's go. They rode out of town in silence, but Cole could feel the weight of 100 eyes on their backs. And he knew, absolutely knew, that things were about to get worse. The ride back to the mountain was silent, except for the sound of hooves breaking through crusted snow. Cole kept glancing at Evelyn, waiting for her to fall apart the way most people would after what had just happened. She didn't. She just stared straight ahead, her jaw set, her hands tight on the reins. It was only when they were halfway up the trail that she finally spoke. I shouldn't have done that. Done what? Made a scene, said those things. You told the truth. The truth doesn't matter to people like that, Evelyn said. All I did was give them more reasons to hate me. They already hated you. Now they'll hate you too. Cole shrugged. I've been hated before. Not like this. You'd be surprised. Evelyn looked at him. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Staying, helping me, defending me. You could have walked away at any point, but you didn't. Why? Cole didn't answer right away. He'd asked himself the same question a dozen times over the past few weeks, and he still didn't have a good answer. Or maybe he did, and he just didn't want to say it out loud. Because, he said finally, I'm tired of walking away. Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Your wife. What was her name? Sarah. How did she die? Childbirth, the baby too. I'm sorry. Don't be. You didn't kill them. That's not the point. Then what is the point? The point, Evelyn said, is that I know what it's like to lose someone and have the whole world blame you for it. Cole felt something crack open inside his chest. They blamed you for your husband's death? From the second the fire started. Even though he was the one who... Doesn't matter what he did, Evelyn interrupted. I was his wife. I was supposed to save him. When I didn't, that made me a murderer in their eyes. That's insane. That's the truth. They rode in silence for a while. The sky was starting to darken, and the temperature was dropping fast. Cole could see his breath in the air, thick and white. What really happened that night? He asked. Evelyn's whole body went stiff. I told you not to ask me about the fire. I'm not asking about the fire. I'm asking about you. It's the same thing. No, it's not. Evelyn pulled her horse to a stop and turned to look at him. Her eyes were hard, but there was something underneath the hardness, something raw and bleeding. You want to know what happened? She said. Fine, I'll tell you. My husband came home drunk. Again. He was angry because I'd spent money on medicine instead of whiskey. He hit me. Again. I fought back. For the first time in 5 years, I actually fought back. She paused, her breath coming faster now. He grabbed the lamp, threw it at me, missed. It hit the wall and the whole room went up in flames. I tried to get him out. I did. But he was too drunk to stand and the smoke got to him before I could drag him to the door. By the time I made it outside, half the town was already there, watching the house burn. Watching me. And I knew right then that they were going to blame me. Did you tell them what happened? I tried, but Edgar Vance got there first. He told everyone I'd started the fire, that I'd killed my husband on purpose, and because he's rich and I'm nobody, they believed him. Why would Vance lie? Because he wanted me. Cole felt his jaw tighten. Wanted you how? The way men like him always want women like me. He made offers. I refused. So he decided if he couldn't have me, he'd destroy me instead. That son of a... It doesn't matter, Evelyn said. What's done is done. I can't change what they think. I can only keep living in spite of it. She turned her horse and started up the trail again. Cole followed, his mind racing. He'd known people were cruel. He'd seen it his whole life. But this was different. This was calculated, deliberate, and it made him angrier than he'd been in years. By the time they reached the cabin, the sun was gone and the temperature had dropped below freezing. They unloaded the supplies in silence, then built up the fire and made coffee that tasted like burnt dirt. I need to ask you something, Evelyn said, staring into her cup. Go ahead. When you said you'd stay, did you mean it? Yes? Even after today? Even knowing what they'll say about you? I don't care what they say. You should. Reputation matters out here. Lose it and you lose everything. I already lost everything, Cole said. The day Sarah died. Everything since then has just been going through the motions. Evelyn looked at him. Is that why you're here? Because you don't care if you live or die? Maybe at first, but not anymore. What changed? Cole met her eyes. You did. The words hung in the air between them, heavy and true. Evelyn looked like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. She just set down her cup and went to check the fire. Cole watched her move around the cabin, her movements careful, deliberate, like she was always waiting for the next blow, and he realized something that should have been obvious from the start. She wasn't just running from the town, she was running from herself. That night, Cole lay awake listening to the wind and thinking about everything that had happened. He'd come up this mountain looking for a distraction, a way to fill the empty hours that stretched between sunrise and sunset. But somewhere along the way, it had stopped being about distraction and started being about something else, something he wasn't ready to name. Across the cabin, Evelyn was sleeping, or pretending to. Her breathing was too controlled, too even. She was awake, same as him, both of them lying in the dark and pretending not to be. Evelyn? He said quietly. Yeah? You awake? No. Cole almost smiled. Can I ask you something? You're going to anyway. Fair enough. He paused. Do you regret it? Coming up here? Building this place? Every single day. Then why do you stay? Because the alternative is worse. What's the alternative? Going back, Evelyn said. Admitting they were right. Letting them win. You think they'd take you back? Vance would. In a heartbeat. He's made that clear. What does he want? What do you think he wants? Cole felt his hands curl into fists. If he touches you, he won't. Not while I'm up here. That's the whole point. And when winter ends, when you have to go back down for supplies, I'll deal with it then. That's not a plan. It's the only plan I have. Cole wanted to argue, but he knew it wouldn't help. Evelyn had spent her whole life fighting just to survive. She didn't know how to do anything else. What about you? Evelyn asked. What about me? Do you regret it, staying here? Cole thought about it. Thought about his ranch sitting empty. Thought about the cattle he'd left in the care of his hired hands. Thought about the life he'd abandoned to help a woman he barely knew. No, he said. I don't. Why not? Because for the first time in 3 years, I don't feel dead inside. Evelyn didn't respond. But Cole heard her breathing change, and he knew she'd heard him. They didn't talk after that. They just lay there in the dark, two broken people pretending to sleep, while the wind howled outside and the cabin creaked under the weight of the snow. The next morning, Cole woke to the smell of something burning. He sat up fast, his heart pounding, and saw Evelyn standing by the fire with a pan in her hand and smoke pouring from whatever she was trying to cook. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Making breakfast?" "That's not breakfast, that's charcoal. It's eggs." "Not anymore, it's not." Evelyn looked at the pan, then at him. "I'm not good at this." "No kidding. You don't have to be mean about it." "I'm not being mean. I'm being honest." "Same thing." Cole got up and took the pan from her. The eggs were beyond saving, so he scraped them into the fire and started over. Evelyn watched him work, her arms crossed. "Where'd you learn to cook?" she asked. "My mother, then my wife." "Sarah taught you?" "She tried. I wasn't a good student. Better than me, apparently. That's not saying much." Evelyn almost smiled. "Almost." "You're in a good mood, relatively speaking. What changed?" Cole cracked another egg into the pan. "Nothing. Everything. I don't know." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I've got." They ate in silence, actual edible eggs this time, and then got to work. The cabin still needed a proper chimney. The gaps between the logs still needed chinking. The floor was still just dirt. There was so much left to do, and every day the cold got worse. But they worked. Cole showed Evelyn how to mix mud and straw to make chinking that would hold. She showed him where the wind came through the walls worst. They argued about the best way to build the chimney. Cole wanted stone, Evelyn wanted clay, and eventually compromised on both. It wasn't easy work. It was hard and cold and frustrating. But it was work that mattered, and that was enough. By midday, they'd made decent progress on the chimney base. Cole was measuring angles when Evelyn spoke. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Why didn't you remarry?" Cole's hand stilled. "What?" "After Sarah died, why didn't you find someone else?" "Why do you think?" "I don't know. That's why I'm asking." Cole set down his tools. "Because I didn't want to." "That's it?" "That's it?" "You didn't love her?" "I loved her fine." "But?" Cole looked at Evelyn. "But I didn't like her very much." Evelyn blinked. "What?" "Sarah was a good woman. Kind, generous. Everything a wife should be. But we didn't fit. Not really. We got married because that's what people do, because we were the right age and the right families, and it made sense on paper. But not in real life. No, not in real life." Evelyn sat down on a log, her expression thoughtful. "Did she know?" "That I didn't like her? Probably. We didn't talk about it." "Why not?" "Because what was the point? We were already married, already stuck. Talking about it would have just made everything worse." "So you just pretended?" "For 3 years. Every single day." Evelyn looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. "That must have been awful." "It was." "Is that why you didn't cry when she died?" Cole felt something twist in his chest. "Who told you that?" "Everyone. They said you didn't shed a single tear at her funeral, that you just stood there like a stone." "I didn't cry because I didn't know how to feel," Cole said. "Part of me was sad. Part of me was relieved, and part of me felt guilty for being relieved. It was all mixed up together, and I didn't know what to do with any of it." "So you did nothing?" "So I did nothing." They sat in silence for a while. The wind had picked up again, carrying the smell of snow. "My husband's name was Thomas," Evelyn said quietly. Cole looked at her, surprised. She'd never talked about her husband before, never even said his name. "I didn't love him either," she continued. "I married him because I was 17 and stupid and thought marriage would save me from my father. It didn't. It just traded one prison for another." "Did he always hit you?" "Not at first. At first he was charming, sweet, made me feel special. Then we got married and the mask came off." "How long did it last?" 5 years. 5 years of walking on eggshells, 5 years of making excuses, 5 years of telling myself it would get better." "Did it?" "No. It got worse. It always gets worse." Cole didn't know what to say to that, so he didn't say anything. He just sat there beside her while the wind blew and the sky darkened. "I used to pray he'd die," Evelyn said. Every night. I'd lie in bed and pray that he'd fall off his horse or get kicked by a cow or just disappear. And then the fire happened and he did die, and I felt... She stopped. What? Cole asked. What did you feel? Nothing, Evelyn said. I felt nothing, and that scared me more than anything else. Cole understood that. Understood it better than he wanted to admit. You think that makes you a bad person? He asked. Doesn't it? No, it makes you human. Evelyn looked at him, her eyes wet. How do you do that? Do what? Make me feel like I'm not completely broken. Because you're not. You don't know that. Yeah, Cole said. I do. They went back to work after that, but something had shifted. The air between them felt different, lighter somehow, like they'd both set down something heavy and didn't quite know what to do without it. By evening, the chimney base was finished. It wasn't perfect. The stones were uneven and the mortar was sloppy in places, but it was solid. It would hold. They made dinner together. Cole cooked while Evelyn cleaned up the tools. They moved around each other easily now, no longer afraid to get close. I've been thinking, Evelyn said while they ate. About? What happens when winter ends? Cole's stomach dropped. What about it? I can't stay up here forever. Eventually I'll need to go back down. Get more supplies. Maybe even sell some furs or something to make money. We'll figure it out. How? I don't know yet, but we will. Evelyn shook her head. You keep saying that. We'll figure it out. But what if we can't? What if there's no way to make this work? Then we'll deal with it when it happens. That's not good enough. It's all I've got. Evelyn set down her plate. I need you to understand something. When spring comes, Vance isn't going to stop. He's going to keep pushing until he gets what he wants or destroys me trying. And if you're with me, he'll destroy you too. Let him try. I'm serious, Cole. So am I. You don't know what he's capable of. I don't care. You should care. You should... I love you, Cole said. The words came out before he could stop them, before he could think about what they meant or what they would cost. They just came out, raw and true and terrifying. Evelyn stared at him. What? I love you, Cole said again, quieter this time. I don't know when it happened or how it happened, but it did. And I'm not going to apologize for it. You can't love me. You barely know me. I know enough. No, you don't. You don't know what I've done, what I'm capable of. I know you're the strongest person I've ever met. I know you'd rather die than give up. I know you make terrible coffee and burn everything you cook, and you're stubborn as hell. And I know that when I'm with you, I don't feel dead inside anymore. Evelyn's hands were shaking. Cole, you don't have to say it back, Cole said. I'm not asking you to. I just needed you to know. Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked to the other side of the cabin. Cole felt his heart sink. He'd said too much, pushed too hard, ruined everything. But then Evelyn turned around, and there were tears running down her face. I can't love you, she said. I don't know how anymore. That's okay. No, it's not, because you deserve someone who can love you back, and I'm not that person. I don't want someone else. I want you. Why? Because you're real, Cole said. Because you don't pretend. Because you're the first person in 3 years who's made me feel like maybe life is worth living after all. Evelyn wiped her face with the back of her hand. This is a mistake. Probably. We're going to regret this. Maybe. I'm going to hurt you. I'll risk it. Evelyn laughed, a broken, wet sound. You're an idiot. I know. A stubborn, reckless idiot. You already said that. Bears repeating. Cole stood up and walked over to her. He stopped a few feet away, giving her space to run if she wanted to. She didn't run. Instead, she reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cold and rough and shaking, but they held on tight. I don't know how to do this, she said. Neither do I. What if we mess it up? Then we mess it up together. Evelyn looked up at him, and for the first time since he'd met her, she smiled. A real smile. The kind that reached her eyes and made the scar on her face look like just another part of her story, instead of the only thing people saw. Okay, she said. Okay? Okay. Cole didn't kiss her. Not yet. That felt like too much, too fast. Instead, he just stood there holding her hand while the fire crackled and the wind howled outside. And for the first time in years, neither of them felt alone. The next few weeks passed in a blur of work and weather and small, careful moments that felt like they might break if handled too roughly. Cole taught Evelyn how to read better. She knew the basics, but not much beyond that. They'd sit by the fire at night with one of the few books she'd saved from the fire, and he'd help her sound out the harder words while she got frustrated and threw the book across the room at least once a week. Evelyn taught Cole how to mend his clothes properly instead of just tying knots in the tears. She was surprisingly good at it, her fingers quick and precise even when the light was bad. They worked on the cabin during the day, finished the chimney, chinked every gap they could find, built a proper door that actually closed all the way, put down a rough wooden floor over the dirt, and slowly the cabin stopped being a shelter and started being a home. But the outside world didn't forget about them. 3 times riders came up the mountain. The first time, it was just townspeople being nosy, wanting to see if the rumors were true. Cole sent them away with a warning that got less polite the longer they stayed. The second time, it was Preacher Boone. He stood outside the cabin and shouted about sin and damnation until Cole walked out with his rifle and told him to leave before he got shot for trespassing. The third time, it was Edgar Vance. He came alone, which surprised Cole. Men like Vance usually traveled with muscle. But there he was, sitting on his horse at the edge of the clearing like he owned the place. "Mr. Barrett," Vance said pleasantly, "might I have a word?" "No. I think you'll want to hear what I have to say." "I doubt that," Vance smiled. "It's about Mrs. Hart and your future." Cole felt Evelyn tense beside him. He put a hand on her arm, a warning to stay calm, and stepped forward. "Say your piece and leave," he said. "Very well." Vance dismounted and walked closer. "I'm here to make you an offer. A generous one, I might add." "Not interested." "You haven't heard it yet." "Don't need to." Vance's smile thinned. "I'm willing to forgive Mrs. Hart's indiscretions, all of them, in exchange for her return to town and a formal apology to the community." "Go to hell," Evelyn said. Now, there's no need for vulgarity." Vance turned to Cole. "And for you, Mr. Barrett, I'm prepared to offer a contract for your cattle. Top dollar, enough to set you up for years." "In exchange for what?" "In exchange for you ending this arrangement. You go back to your ranch. Mrs. Hart comes back to town. Everyone moves on with their lives." "And if we refuse?" Vance's expression hardened. "Then I'll make sure neither of you has a life to move on with." Cole felt his hand move toward his rifle. Evelyn caught his wrist. "Don't," she whispered. "Listen to her," Vance said. "She's smarter than you are." "Get off my property," Cole said. "This isn't your property. It's public land, which means Mrs. Hart is squatting, which means I can have her removed. Try it." "Oh, I will. But first, I thought I'd give you a chance to do the right thing, to walk away before this gets ugly." "It's already ugly." Vance shrugged. "Suit yourself. But don't say I didn't warn you." He mounted his horse and rode away, leaving Cole and Evelyn standing in the clearing. "He's not bluffing," Evelyn said quietly. "I know. He'll destroy us. Let him try." "Cole, oh, no." Cole turned to face her. "I'm not running. I'm not hiding. And I'm sure as hell not letting that bastard win." Evelyn looked at him, her eyes full of something that might have been fear or might have been hope. "What are we going to do?" "We're going to finish this cabin. We're going to survive the winter. And when spring comes, we're going to figure out how to beat him." "How?" "I don't know yet. But we will." Evelyn shook her head, but she was smiling. "You keep saying that. Because it's true. Or because you're too stubborn to admit when you're wrong." "That too." They went back inside, but Cole couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was coming. Vance wasn't the type to make threats he didn't intend to keep. And if he was willing to come all the way up the mountain just to deliver a warning, then whatever he had planned was going to be worse than either of them imagined. That night, Cole lay awake listening to the wind and thinking about all the ways this could end badly. He could lose the ranch, lose his reputation, lose everything he'd worked for. But when he looked over at Evelyn sleeping by the fire, he realized something important. He didn't care. Not anymore. Because for the first time in his life, he'd found something worth fighting for. And he wasn't going to let anyone take it away. Vance's visit changed something. Cole felt it in the way Evelyn started checking the tree line every morning, her hand always close to the rifle. He felt it in the silence between them that had nothing to do with comfort and everything to do with waiting for the other shoe to drop. The snow came heavier after that, day after day, week after week, until the world outside the cabin was nothing but white. They were trapped, not by choice this time, but by nature. The trail down the mountain became impassable. Even if they'd wanted to leave, they couldn't. "We're running low on coffee," Evelyn said one morning, staring at the nearly empty tin. "I know. And flour. I know that too. We should have bought more when we had the chance." Cole looked up from the wood he was splitting. "We bought what we could carry. Any more and the horses would have collapsed. Still. We'll make it stretch." Evelyn set down the tin harder than necessary. "And when it runs out, then we do without. Easy for you to say. You're used to doing without. So are you." "That doesn't make it easier." Cole drove the axe into the chopping block and walked over to her. "What's this really about?" "What do you mean?" "I mean you're picking fights over coffee. That's not like you." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Maybe I'm just tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not." "I never said everything was fine. You act like it is, like we can just stay up here forever and nothing bad will happen." "I don't think that." "Then what do you think?" Cole took a breath. "I think we're doing the best we can with what we've got, and I think picking fights with me isn't going to make the flour last longer." Evelyn stared at him for a moment, then turned away. "I'm going to check the traps." "It's snowing. I don't care." "Evelyn." But she was already pulling on her coat and walking out the door. Cole stood there in the empty cabin, listening to the wind howl through the gaps they still hadn't sealed. He wanted to go after her, wanted to make her understand that he was just as scared as she was. But he knew Evelyn well enough by now to know that sometimes she needed space more than she needed comfort, so he let her go. She came back 2 hours later, half frozen and empty-handed. The traps had been sprung, but the animals had gotten away, probably a fox or a wolverine stealing their catches. "Happens sometimes," Cole said, helping her out of her wet coat. "We can't afford sometimes. I'll reset them tomorrow." "What if tomorrow's the same?" "Then we'll deal with it." Evelyn pulled away from him. "Stop saying that." "Saying what?" "That we'll deal with it, that we'll figure it out. Like you have all the answers when you don't." "I never said I had the answers." "Then stop acting like you do." Cole felt his temper flare. "What do you want me to say, Evelyn? That I'm scared? That I don't know how this ends? Fine. I'm scared. I don't know how this ends, but I'm still here and I'm still fighting because that's all I know how to do. Maybe fighting isn't enough. It's all we've got. Then maybe we've got nothing." The words hit like a slap. Cole stepped back, feeling something cold settle in his chest. "You don't mean that," he said quietly. Evelyn wrapped her arms around herself. "I don't know what I mean anymore." "Yes, you do." "No, I don't. I thought I did. I thought if I could just build this cabin and survive the winter, everything would be fine. But it's not fine. It's never going to be fine. Vance is going to come back, and when he does, he's going to destroy both of us. Let him try. He will try. And he'll succeed. Because men like him always do. Not this time." "Why? Because you're different? Because you love me?" Evelyn laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Love doesn't stop men like Vance. It just gives them another weapon to use against you." Cole felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "Is that what you think? That loving you is a weakness?" "It is a weakness. For both of us." "I don't believe that." "Then you're a fool." The cabin fell silent, except for the crackling of the fire. Cole wanted to say something, anything, to fix this. But he didn't know how. Didn't know what Evelyn needed to hear. "I'm going to bed," she said finally. "It's barely dark." "I don't care." She lay down on her side of the cabin, her back to him, and pulled the blanket over her head. Cole sat by the fire and watched the flames dance, feeling more alone than he had in months. The fight, if you could call it that, lasted 3 days. They didn't yell, didn't argue. They just existed in the same space without really seeing each other. Evelyn would make coffee in the morning and Cole would drink it in silence. They'd work on separate tasks during the day, never quite in sync. At night, they'd eat on opposite sides of the fire and pretend the other person wasn't there. It was worse than being alone. On the fourth day, Cole couldn't take it anymore. "We need to talk," he said. "About what?" "About this. About us. About whatever the hell is happening here." Evelyn didn't look up from the socks she was mending. "There's nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is." "No, there's not. I said what I said. You heard what you heard. That's the end of it." "It doesn't have to be." "Yes, it does." Cole walked over and sat down next to her. She tried to move away, but he caught her hand. "Look at me," he said. "No." "Evelyn, look at me." She finally met his eyes, and Cole saw something in them that broke his heart. Not anger, not even fear. Resignation. "I can't do this," she said quietly. "Do what?" "This. Us. Any of it. I thought I could, but I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm not built for it. I don't know how to let someone in. I don't know how to trust that they won't leave or hurt me or use me. And I sure as hell don't know how to believe that someone could actually love me without wanting something in return." "I don't want anything. Everyone wants something, Cole. You, Vance, Thomas, my father. Everyone. And I'm tired of pretending that's not true." "What do you think I want?" Evelyn pulled her hand away. "I don't know. Maybe you want to feel like a hero. Maybe you want someone to fix. Maybe you just want company so you don't have to face how miserable your own life is. That's not fair. Life's not fair." "No, but you are. Or at least you used to be." Evelyn flinched like he'd hit her. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're pushing me away because you're scared, and instead of admitting that, you're trying to make me the bad guy so you don't have to feel guilty about it." "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're doing exactly what you've always done, running away before someone can hurt you first." "I'm not running. I'm protecting myself." "From what? From me? I've never hurt you, never lied to you, never asked you for anything you weren't willing to give. So what exactly are you protecting yourself from?" Evelyn stood up, her hands shaking. "From this. From feeling something, from wanting something I can't have." "You can have it. I'm right here." "For how long? Until Vance shows up with the sheriff? Until the town runs you out? Until you wake up one day and realize I'm not worth all the trouble?" "That's not going to happen." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." "How? How can you be so sure?" Cole stood up and faced her. "Because I've already lost everything once. My wife, my son, my future, all of it. And I survived. So if loving you means losing everything again, then fine, I'll lose it. But at least this time, it'll be for something real." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "You're an idiot." "You've said that before." "I'll keep saying it until you start listening." "I am listening. I just don't agree." They stood there staring at each other, the fire crackling between them. Finally, Evelyn wiped her face with the back of her hand. "I'm scared," she said quietly. "I know. I'm scared that if I let myself love you, you'll leave, or die, or decide I'm not worth it after all." "I'm scared too." "Of what?" "Of the same things. But I'm more scared of spending the rest of my life alone because I was too afraid to try." Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Cole held her while she cried, really cried this time, not the quiet kind she did in the middle of the night when she thought he was asleep. He held her until the sobs turned to hiccups, and the hiccups turned to steady breathing. "I don't know how to do this," she said into his chest. "Neither do I." "What if we mess it up?" "Then we mess it up. But at least we'll do it together." Evelyn pulled back and looked up at him. "You really mean that?" "Every word." She kissed him then. Not gently, not carefully, but like she was drowning and he was air. Cole kissed her back just as hard, his hands tangling in her hair, pulling her closer. It wasn't perfect. Their noses bumped. Their teeth clacked together. But it was real, and that was all that mattered. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "Okay," Evelyn said. "Okay? Okay, I'm in. Whatever happens, I'm in." Cole smiled. "Good. Because I wasn't planning on giving you a choice." "Typical man. You love it." "I really don't." but she was smiling when she said it. 2 weeks later, the snow finally stopped. The world outside was silent and white, and so bright it hurt to look at. Cole and Evelyn stood in the doorway of the cabin, staring at the transformed landscape. "We need supplies," Cole said. "I know." "Which means going back to town." "I know that too." "You sure you want to do this?" Evelyn looked at him. "No, but we don't have a choice." They left the next morning, the horses struggling through snow that came up to their knees. The trail was barely visible, and twice they had to backtrack because the path had been completely buried. By the time they reached the valley, it was late afternoon, and both of them were exhausted. Elk Hollow looked different in the winter. Smaller, somehow. Meaner. The buildings hunched against the cold, smoke rising from chimneys in thin, desperate streams. "Last chance to turn back," Cole said. "Not a chance." They rode down the main street side by side, and the reaction was immediate. Doors closed. Windows shuttered. People crossed to the other side of the street to avoid them. A woman pulled her child inside so fast the kid didn't even have time to protest. "Friendly as ever," Evelyn muttered. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Basic human decency?" "Wrong town for that." They tied their horses outside the general store and went inside. The storekeeper, a rail-thin man named Hutchins, looked up when they entered and his face went pale. "Mrs. Hart," he said stiffly. "Mr. Hutchins." "I'm afraid I can't serve you." Evelyn stopped. "Excuse me?" "I can't serve you. Mr. Vance's orders." "Vance doesn't own this store." "No, but he owns the building. And my credit. And if I serve you, he'll cut me off." "That's insane." "That's business." Cole stepped forward. "What about me? Will you serve me?" Hutchins looked uncomfortable. "I suppose so." "Good. Then you'll sell to me, and I'll give it to whoever I damn well please." "Mr. Vance won't like that." "I don't care what Vance likes." "You should. He's a powerful man." "So am I." It wasn't true, not really, but Cole said it with enough conviction that Hutchins believed it, or at least pretended to. They bought what they needed: flour, coffee, salt, beans, dried meat, and loaded it onto the horses. They were almost done when Preacher Boone appeared, flanked by half a dozen men from town. "Mr. Barrett," Boone said. "Mrs. Hart. How fortuitous. I was hoping to have a word with you both." "We're busy," Cole said. "This won't take long. I simply wanted to inform you that there will be a town meeting this Sunday. Your presence is requested." "Requested or required?" "Let's say strongly encouraged." "What's the meeting about?" Boone smiled. "Community standards, moral conduct, the sort of things that keep a town civilized. In other words, us." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." Boone's smile widened. "Sunday at noon. The church. I do hope you'll attend." "And if we don't?" "Then the town will be forced to take matters into its own hands." Cole felt Evelyn tense beside him. "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact, Mr. Barrett. This town has rules. When those rules are broken, there are consequences." "We haven't broken any rules." "Haven't you? Mrs. Hart is living in sin with a man who is not her husband. On public land, no less. That violates both moral and legal codes. We're not living in sin. We're surviving. Call it what you will. The result is the same." Cole stepped forward, his hands curling into fists. "You son of a—" Evelyn caught his arm. "Don't. He's not worth it." Boone looked at her with something that might have been pity or might have been contempt. "You always were a smart woman, Mrs. Hart. It's a shame you waste that intelligence on such poor decisions." "At least I make my own decisions. Can you say the same?" Boone's expression hardened. "Sunday, noon. Don't be late." He turned and walked away, his entourage following like obedient dogs. Cole stood there, shaking with rage. "We should leave." "Where would we go?" "I don't know. Anywhere but here. We can't run forever." "We can try." Evelyn shook her head. "No, I'm done running. If they want to fight, we'll give them one." "Evelyn, I mean it, Cole. I spent 5 years being afraid of Thomas, 3 months being afraid of this town. I'm not doing it anymore. This is different. These people are dangerous." "So am I." Cole looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the same woman who'd dragged a pine log up a mountain alone. The same woman who'd built a cabin with bleeding hands and refused to quit. The same woman who'd stood in the middle of town and told the truth, even when it cost her everything. And he realized she was right. Running wouldn't solve anything. It would just delay the inevitable. "Okay," he said, "we fight." "Together?" "Together." They finished loading the horses and left town without another word. But Cole could feel eyes on them the whole way out. That night they sat by the fire and tried to plan. "What do you think they'll do?" Evelyn asked. "At the meeting? Probably try to shame us into leaving. And when that doesn't work? I don't know. Run us out? Burn the cabin? They wouldn't. Wouldn't they?" Evelyn was quiet for a moment. "What if we don't go? Then they'll come to us. And it'll be worse. What if we go and it doesn't matter? What if they've already decided what they're going to do?" Cole didn't have an answer for that. They sat in silence for a while, watching the fire burn down to embers. Outside, the wind had picked up again, carrying the promise of more snow. "Cole?" Evelyn said quietly. "Yeah? If this goes bad, if they do something, I want you to know that I don't regret any of it. Don't talk like that. I mean it. These past few months, they've been the best of my life. And I know that sounds pathetic, but it's true." Cole reached over and took her hand. "They've been the best of mine too. Even with all the fighting?" "Especially with the fighting." Evelyn laughed. "You're strange, you know that?" "Takes one to know one." They went to bed that night, holding each other, both of them trying to pretend they weren't terrified of what Sunday would bring. The days leading up to the meeting passed too quickly. They tried to prepare. Cole cleaned his rifle. Evelyn sharpened every knife they owned. They talked through scenarios, what they'd say, how they'd respond, when they'd walk away. But deep down, they both knew it wouldn't matter. The town had already made up its mind. Sunday morning dawned clear and cold. They dressed in their best clothes, which wasn't saying much, and rode down the mountain in silence. The church was packed when they arrived. Every pew filled, every face turned toward them with expressions ranging from disgust to curiosity to something that might have been sympathy. Vance was there, sitting in the front row like he owned the place, probably because he did. Boone stood at the pulpit, his hands folded, his expression serene. "Mr. Barrett, Mrs. Hart, how good of you to join us." "Let's get this over with," Cole said. "Patience, we're waiting for everyone to arrive." "Everyone's already here." Not quite. The door opened behind them, and Cole turned to see Sheriff Dawson walk in, his badge gleaming in the winter light. Cole's stomach dropped. "Now we can begin," Boone said. The meeting was a farce from the start. Boone talked for 20 minutes about community values and moral standards and the importance of setting a good example. He never mentioned Cole or Evelyn by name, but everyone knew who he was talking about. Then he opened the floor for comments. One by one, townspeople stood up and aired their grievances. How Cole and Evelyn were corrupting the youth, how they were living in sin, how they were an embarrassment to the community. Some of it was creative. Most of it was recycled from previous complaints. All of it was designed to hurt. Cole sat there and took it, his jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Evelyn didn't move, didn't react, just stared straight ahead like she was somewhere else entirely. Finally, after what felt like hours, Boone raised his hand for silence. "Thank you all for your input. Now, I believe Mr. Vance has something he'd like to say." Vance stood up, smoothing his coat. "Thank you, preacher. I'll keep this brief." He turned to face Cole and Evelyn. "I'm a reasonable man," Vance said. "I don't want trouble. I don't want conflict. I simply want what's best for this community." "Get to the point," Cole said. "The point, Mr. Barrett, is that your presence here, both of you, is disruptive. It sets a poor example, and it cannot continue. We're not doing anything wrong. That's a matter of perspective. But regardless, I'm prepared to offer you both a way out of this unfortunate situation. We're not interested in your deals. Hear me out. Mrs. Hart, I'm willing to offer you a position at my boarding house, room, board, and a modest salary. All you have to do is agree to stay in town and behave like a respectable woman." "Go to hell," Evelyn said. Vance's smile didn't waver. "And you, Mr. Barrett, I'm willing to purchase your cattle at a fair price, enough to set you up elsewhere. Montana, perhaps, or California. Anywhere but here." "Not interested." I thought you might say that, which is why I've taken the liberty of consulting with Sheriff Dawson about your legal situation. Dawson stood up. He looked uncomfortable but determined. Mrs. Hart, he said, you're squatting on public land. That's illegal. You have two options. Leave voluntarily, or I'll remove you by force. Evelyn's face went pale. You can't do that. I can, and I will. You have until the end of the month to vacate the property. That's not enough time. The snow... Not my problem. Cole stood up. This is insane. You're going to force a woman out of her home in the middle of winter? It's not her home, Vance said smoothly. It's public land. She has no legal claim to it. Then I'll buy it. You can't. It's not for sale. Then I'll file a claim. Too late. I already did. Cole felt the floor drop out from under him. What? I filed a claim on that land 3 weeks ago. It's mine now, which means Mrs. Hart is trespassing on my property. You son of a bitch. Mind your language, Mr. Barrett. We're in a house of worship. Cole lunged forward, but Evelyn caught him. Don't, she said. That's what he wants. She was right. Vance was smiling like a cat with a cornered mouse. So here's what's going to happen, Vance said. Mrs. Hart will vacate the property by the end of the month. Mr. Barrett will sell his cattle and leave the territory, and everyone will move on with their lives. And if we refuse, Evelyn asked, then Sheriff Dawson will arrest you for trespassing, and Mr. Barrett for interfering with a lawful eviction, and you'll both spend the rest of the winter in jail cells while I burn that cabin to the ground. The church fell silent. Cole looked at Evelyn. She looked back at him, her eyes full of something that might have been defeat or might have been rage. You can't do this, Cole said. I already have, Vance replied. Boone stepped forward. I think we've heard enough. Unless anyone has objections, the matter is settled. No one spoke. Then we're adjourned. Mrs. Hart, you have until the end of the month. I suggest you use that time wisely. Cole and Evelyn walked out of that church into the freezing afternoon, and for the first time since they'd met, neither of them had any idea what to do next. They rode back up the mountain in silence, the weight of defeat sitting heavier than the supplies on the horses. The trail felt longer than it ever had before, each step taking them closer to a cabin that might not be theirs much longer. Cole kept replaying the meeting in his head, searching for something he'd missed, some loophole, some way out. But there wasn't one. Vance had planned this perfectly, and they'd walked right into it. Say something, Evelyn said finally. What do you want me to say? Anything. Tell me we're going to fight this. Tell me there's a way out. Tell me something other than nothing. Cole pulled his horse to a stop. I don't know what you want me to say, Evelyn. We lost. Vance won. That's it. That's it? That's all you've got? What else is there? Evelyn's eyes blazed. You told me we'd fight. You said we'd figure it out together. You said... I know what I said, but I didn't know he'd already filed a claim. I didn't know he had the sheriff in his pocket. I didn't know... You didn't know a lot of things, apparently. Cole felt his temper snap. What the hell do you want from me? I'm doing the best I can. Your best isn't good enough. The words hit like a punch. Cole stared at her, feeling something cold settle in his chest. Then maybe you should have picked someone else to help you, he said quietly. Evelyn looked like she'd been slapped. That's not what I meant. Sounded like it to me. Cole, forget it. Let's just get back to the cabin. They didn't speak the rest of the way. When they reached the cabin, Cole unloaded the supplies in silence, while Evelyn built up the fire. The routine of it, the familiar movements, the shared tasks, felt hollow now, like they were going through the motions of something that was already over. That night, they ate on opposite sides of the room again. We could leave, Evelyn said finally. Just pack up and go. Find somewhere else to start over. With what money? What supplies? It's the middle of winter, Evelyn. We'd be dead in a week. So we just give up? I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? Cole set down his plate. I'm saying I don't have all the answers. I'm saying I'm tired of pretending I do. I'm saying maybe you were right to be scared because I clearly have no idea what I'm doing. That's not true, isn't it? I promised you we'd figure this out. I promised you'd be safe. And now look where we are. We're still here. We're still alive. That counts for something. Does it? Because from where I'm sitting, all I've done is make things worse for you. Evelyn stood up and walked over to him. Stop that. Stop what? Feeling sorry for yourself. It doesn't suit you. I'm not. Yes, you are. You're sitting here acting like this is all your fault when it's not. Vance did this. The town did this. Not you. I could have been smarter. Could have seen it coming. How? You're not a mind reader. I should have protected you better. I don't need you to protect me, Evelyn said. I need you to stand with me. There's a difference. Cole looked up at her. I don't know how to fix this. Then we'll figure it out, together, like you said. I thought you said my best wasn't good enough. Evelyn winced. I was angry. I didn't mean it. You sure about that? Yes, I'm sure. She knelt down in front of him. I'm sorry. I was scared and I took it out on you, but I don't actually think you're not good enough. I think you're the best man I've ever met. Cole felt something loosen in his chest. You're just saying that because I'm the only man who'll put up with you. That too. They sat there for a moment, not quite touching, not quite separate. What are we going to do? Evelyn asked. I don't know, but we've got until the end of the month to figure it out. That's 2 weeks. I know. Not a lot of time. No, but it's what we've got. Evelyn leaned her head against his shoulder. I'm tired of fighting. Me too. But we're going to anyway, aren't we? Yeah, we are. The next morning, Cole woke up with an idea. It wasn't a good idea. It probably wasn't even a smart idea. But it was the only idea he had. I need to go see someone, he told Evelyn over breakfast. Who? Walter Grady. He's an old rancher who lives about 10 miles south of here. Used to mentor me when I first started out. Why do you need to see him? Because he's been around longer than anyone. If there's a way to fight this, he'll know. Evelyn looked skeptical. And if there's not? Then at least we tried. She didn't argue, just nodded and helped him pack supplies for the trip. You want me to come with you? She asked. No, stay here. Keep the fire going. I'll be back by nightfall. Cole, I'll be fine. That's not what I was going to say. Then what? Evelyn kissed him. Be careful. Walter Grady lived in a cabin that made Evelyn's look like a palace. It was small and crooked and probably older than Walter himself, but it was solid. The kind of place that had weathered 100 winters and would weather 100 more. Walter was sitting on the porch when Cole rode up, a pipe in his mouth and a rifle across his lap. Wondered when you'd show up, Walter said. You expecting me? Heard about the meeting. Figured you'd come looking for advice eventually. Cole dismounted and tied his horse. You hear everything that happens in this valley? Most of it. The rest I make up. Walter gestured to the chair beside him. Sit. Cole sat. They didn't talk for a while. Just sat there smoking, Walter with his pipe, Cole with a cigarette Walter offered him, and watching the sky. You're in trouble, Walter said finally. I know. Bad trouble. I know that too. So what are you going to do about it? Cole took a drag of the cigarette. That's why I'm here. I was hoping you'd have some ideas. Walter laughed. You want an old man to solve your problems? I want an old man who's smarter than me to tell me if there's a way out of this. There's always a way out. Question is whether you're willing to take it. What's that supposed to mean? Walter looked at him. It means you could walk away, sell your ranch, leave the territory, start over somewhere nobody knows you. I'm not leaving Evelyn. Then take her with you. She won't go. And even if she would, we don't have the money to start over. Then you're stuck. That's not helpful. You asked for the truth. That's the truth. Cole flicked the cigarette into the snow. There has to be another way. Maybe. Maybe not. But I'll tell you this. Vance isn't going to stop until he gets what he wants. And what he wants is that woman broken and begging. That's not going to happen. You sure about that? Yes. Walter studied him carefully. You love her. It wasn't a question. Yeah, Cole said. I do. She love you back? I think so. You think so or you know so? I know so. Good, because love's the only thing that'll get you through what's coming. Cole felt a chill run down his spine. What's coming? War, Walter said simply. You stand up to a man like Vance, you better be ready for war. I don't want war. Doesn't matter what you want, it's what you're getting. They sat in silence for a moment. There might be one thing, Walter said slowly. What? That land Vance filed a claim on. When did he file it? 3 weeks ago, he said. And when did the woman start building? Early October. Why? Walter's eyes narrowed. Because if she was there first, if she can prove she was improving the land before Vance filed his claim, then she might have a case for prior use. Cole felt a flicker of hope. You sure? No. But it's worth a shot. You'd have to prove it, though, and that means witnesses, documentation, something that shows she was there before Vance made his move. Nobody from town is going to testify for us. Then find someone who will. Cole stood up. Thank you, Walter. Don't thank me yet. This is a long shot at best. It's more than we had before, Walter nodded. One more thing. What? Whatever happens, whatever Vance does, don't let him make you into something you're not. Don't let him turn you mean or bitter or violent. You do that, he wins, even if you beat him. Cole thought about that on the ride back. He'd already felt himself changing over the past few months, felt the anger building, the desire for revenge, the urge to make Vance hurt the way he'd hurt Evelyn. But Walter was right. That wasn't the answer. The answer was proving they had a right to be there, a legal right that even Vance couldn't take away. He just had to figure out how. When he got back to the cabin, Evelyn was waiting on the porch, a rifle in her hands. What's wrong? Cole asked, dismounting fast. Someone was here. What? When? About an hour ago. I heard horses, saw them through the trees. They didn't come close, but they were watching. Cole felt his blood run cold. How many? 3, maybe 4. You get a look at them? Not good enough to recognize, but they weren't friendly. Cole checked the tree line, but whoever had been there was long gone. Vance is getting impatient, he said. You think he'll try something before the deadline? I don't know, but we need to be ready. They spent the rest of the afternoon reinforcing the cabin. Cole boarded up the windows from the inside, leaving just small gaps to see through. Evelyn organized their weapons, 2 rifles, a shotgun, and enough ammunition to hold off a small army. This is insane, she said, staring at the arsenal. You got a better idea? No. But this feels like we're preparing for a siege. We might be. That night, neither of them slept. They took turns keeping watch, one by the window while the other rested by the fire. Every sound outside, every crack of a branch, every gust of wind made them jump. But no one came. By morning, they were exhausted and jumpy and starting to wonder if they'd imagined the whole thing. Maybe they were just hunters, Evelyn said, though she didn't sound convinced. Maybe. Or maybe Vance is trying to scare us. That too. They went about their day trying to pretend everything was normal, but it wasn't. Every moment felt like waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped 3 days later. Cole was outside chopping wood when he heard Evelyn scream. He dropped the axe and ran inside to find her standing by the door, holding a piece of paper. What is it? He asked. She handed it to him without a word. The note was short and to the point. Leave by Sunday or we'll burn you out. This is your only warning. It wasn't signed, but it didn't need to be. They're not even waiting for the deadline, Evelyn said, her voice shaking. When did this show up? Just now. It was nailed to the door. Cole walked outside and looked around. Fresh tracks in the snow led away from the cabin, heading down the mountain. They were just here, he said. What do we do? Cole looked at the note again. Sunday. That gave them 4 days. We don't leave, he said. Cole, I'm serious. We don't leave. We stay. And if they come, we fight. Against how many? We don't even know who left this. Doesn't matter. We're not running. Evelyn stared at him. You're going to get us killed. Maybe. But at least we'll die standing up. That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be true. Evelyn looked at the note, then at the cabin, then back at Cole. Okay, she said finally. Okay? We stay. We fight. And if we die together. Cole pulled her close. We're not going to die. You don't know that. No, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we don't. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Cole rode down to Walter's place and told him what was happening. Walter gave him extra ammunition and a warning to watch his back. On the way back, Cole stopped at his own ranch and gathered more supplies, knowing it might be the last time he'd see the place. Evelyn spent the time fortifying the cabin. She moved furniture to create barriers. She filled buckets with snow to put out fires. She made sure every weapon was loaded and within reach. They didn't talk much. There wasn't much to say. Sunday morning arrived cold and clear. They were ready. Cole stood by the window with his rifle while Evelyn covered the back. The fire was out. They couldn't risk smoke giving away their position. The cabin was dark and silent and felt more like a tomb than a home. "How long do we wait?" Evelyn asked. "As long as it takes." They waited. Noon came and went. Then 1 o'clock. Then 2. "Maybe they're not coming," Evelyn said. "They're coming." "How do you know?" "Because men like that always come." At 3 o'clock, Cole saw movement in the trees. "They're here," he said quietly. Evelyn moved to her position. "How many?" "I count 6. Maybe more behind them." "Vance?" "I don't see him, but that doesn't mean he's not there." The riders stopped at the edge of the clearing, just out of rifle range. They sat there for a long moment, like they were waiting for something. Then one of them called out, "Mrs. Hart, Mr. Barrett, we're here on behalf of Mr. Vance. You have one last chance to leave peacefully." Cole didn't respond. "We know you're in there. Come out and no one gets hurt." Still nothing. The rider turned to the others and said something Cole couldn't hear. Then they all dismounted and started moving toward the cabin. "They're coming," Cole said. "I see them." "Wait until they're close." "How close?" "Close enough to hit." The men spread out, approaching from multiple angles. Smart. They'd done this before. Cole picked his target, a big man with a torch in one hand and a pistol in the other. "When I shoot, you shoot," he told Evelyn. "Okay." The men got closer. 30 yards, 20, 15. Cole squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out across the valley, and the big man went down. The others scattered, diving for cover. Evelyn fired at another man, missed, fired again. This time she hit him in the leg and he went down screaming. The remaining men opened fire, bullets slamming into the cabin walls. "Get down!" Cole yelled. They dropped below the windows as bullets tore through the wood above their heads. Cole counted shots. 6, 8, 10, then popped back up and fired twice more. Another man went down. "They're retreating," Evelyn shouted. She was right. The men were falling back to the trees, dragging their wounded with them. Cole and Evelyn waited, watching. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the men emerged again, but this time they were carrying something. "What is that?" Evelyn asked. Cole's stomach dropped. Kerosene. They were going to burn them out. The men spread the kerosene around the cabin in a wide circle, staying just out of rifle range. Then they lit it. The flames caught instantly, racing around the cabin in a ring of fire. "We have to get out," Evelyn said. Not yet. They're waiting for us." "We'll burn if we stay. We'll die if we run." Smoke started seeping through the walls. The heat was already unbearable. Cole looked at Evelyn. "When I say go, we run for the horses. You go left, I'll go right. Don't stop for anything." "Cole, do you trust me?" "Yes." "Then get ready." He waited until the smoke was so thick he could barely breathe. Then he kicked open the door. "Go!" They ran. Cole fired blindly into the trees, trying to give Evelyn cover. He saw her reach the horses, saw her mount, saw her take off down the trail. Then something hit him in the shoulder and he went down. The pain was instant and blinding. Cole looked down and saw blood spreading across his shirt. He'd been shot. He tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't work. Tried to reach his rifle, but it was too far away. Through the smoke and flames, he saw a figure walking toward him. Edgar Vance. "Mr. Barrett," Vance said, kneeling down beside him, "I told you this would end badly." Cole tried to speak, but couldn't. "Don't worry, I'll take good care of Mrs. Hart. She'll come around eventually. They always do." Cole's vision was fading. The last thing he saw before everything went black was Vance's smiling face. Then nothing. When Cole woke up, the first thing he felt was pain. The second thing he felt was confusion. He was supposed to be dead, but he wasn't. He was lying in a bed, a real bed, not the floor of a burning cabin, and someone was pressing something cold against his shoulder. "Easy," a voice said. "Don't move." Cole forced his eyes open and saw Walter Grady sitting beside him. Walter? Yeah, it's me. Where? My place. You're safe. Evelyn? She's fine. She's outside. Cole tried to sit up, but the pain knocked him back down. I said don't move, Walter said. Bullet went through your shoulder, missed the bone, but you lost a lot of blood. How did I? Your woman came back for you, rode straight through that fire and dragged you out while those bastards were still shooting, brought you here. Cole felt something break open in his chest. She came back? Yeah, stubborn as hell, that one. The door opened and Evelyn walked in. Her face was covered in soot and her hands were bandaged, but she was alive. You're awake, she said. You came back for me. Of course I did. You think I'd leave you there? You should have. You could have gotten away. Without you? Not a chance. Cole felt tears burning his eyes. You're an idiot. Takes one to know one. She sat down on the bed beside him and took his hand. The cabin? Cole asked. Gone. Burned to the ground. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was just a building. It was your home. No, Evelyn said. You're my home. Cole pulled her close, ignoring the pain in his shoulder, and held her while she cried. And for the first time since the meeting, he felt something other than despair. He felt hope. Cole spent 3 days in Walter's bed, drifting in and out of fever dreams where the cabin was always burning and Vance was always smiling. Evelyn stayed by his side the whole time, changing his bandages, forcing water down his throat, refusing to sleep. On the 4th day, the fever broke. You look terrible, Cole said when he finally opened his eyes and saw her clearly. You look worse, Evelyn replied. Fair enough. She helped him sit up, propping pillows behind him. His shoulder throbbed, but the pain was manageable now, distant. How bad is it? He asked. Walter says you'll live, but you won't be chopping wood for a while. What about you? Evelyn held up her bandaged hands. Burns. Not bad. They'll heal. Cole reached for her hand, carefully avoiding the worst of the bandages. You shouldn't have come back for me. We've been over this. I'm serious. You could have died. So could you. That's why I came back. Evelyn, stop, she said firmly. Stop trying to make me regret saving your life. I don't. I won't. So just accept it and move on. Cole looked at her, really looked at her. Her face was still covered in soot she hadn't bothered to wash off completely. Her hair was a mess. She had dark circles under her eyes that made her look 10 years older. She'd never been more beautiful. I love you, he said. I know. No, I mean, I really love you. The kind of love that doesn't make sense, the kind that makes you run into burning buildings. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. I love you too, even though you're an idiot who gets himself shot. Seems like we're both idiots then. Yeah, we are. They sat in silence for a moment, just holding hands and being alive. What do we do now? Cole asked finally. I don't know. Walter's letting us stay here for now, but we can't hide forever. Vance is going to come after us again. I know. And the town still thinks you're a murderer. I know that too. Cole took a breath. Then we need to change their minds. How? By telling the truth. All of it. In front of everyone who'll listen. Evelyn pulled her hand away. We tried that. It didn't work. We tried it Vance's way, in his church, with his people, on his terms. This time we do it differently. How? Cole looked at her. We make them listen. Walter came in then, carrying a pot of something that smelled like it had died twice. Stew, he announced. Eat it or don't, but it's all you're getting. They ate it. It was terrible, but it was food. I've been thinking, Walter said, settling into his chair. About your situation. And? Cole asked. And you're right about one thing. You need to tell the truth, but you need proof to back it up. What kind of proof? The kind that shows Vance orchestrated this whole thing. The fire, the threats, everything. How do we get that? Walter smiled. You don't. I do. Over the next week, while Cole healed, Walter became a ghost. He went into town every day, sitting in the general store, the saloon, anywhere people talked. He listened. He asked questions. He bought drinks for men who'd been part of the group that burned the cabin. And slowly, carefully, he collected the truth. Turned out, some of those men weren't proud of what they'd done. They'd been paid by Vance, $20 each, to remove a problem from the mountain. They'd been told it would be easy, that the cabin would be empty, that no one would get hurt. They hadn't counted on Cole and Evelyn fighting back. One of them, a young ranch hand named Tommy, felt so guilty about it that he couldn't sleep. Walter found him 3 days after the fire, drunk in the saloon and crying about how he'd almost killed a woman. "Tell me everything," Walter said. And Tommy did. He told Walter about the meeting where Vance had recruited them, about the money he'd promised, about how Vance had specifically said to make sure the widow didn't survive. "He wanted her dead?" Walter asked. "He didn't say it like that, but yeah, that's what he meant." "You willing to say that in front of other people?" Tommy looked terrified. "Vance will kill me. Vance will try. But there's 6 of us who know the truth now. That's harder to kill than one." "I don't know. You want to live with this for the rest of your life? Knowing you almost murdered an innocent woman?" Tommy stared into his drink. "What do I have to do?" Walter told him. When Walter came back to the cabin with the news, Cole was finally on his feet again. His shoulder still hurt like hell, but he could move, could ride, could fight if he needed to. "Got something for you," Walter said, pulling out a folded piece of paper. Cole read it, then read it again. It was a signed statement from Tommy detailing everything, the meeting, the money, Vance's orders, all of it. "This is it," Cole said. "This is what we need. It's a start, but one testimony won't be enough. We need more." "How many more?" "As many as we can get." Over the next 2 weeks, they got 4. 4 men who'd been at that meeting. 4 men who were willing to testify that Vance had orchestrated the whole thing. 4 men who were tired of living with what they'd done. It wasn't a lot, but it was something. "Now what?" Evelyn asked. "Now we go back to town," Cole said. "They'll arrest us. Maybe. But at least we'll be heard. And if they won't listen, then we make them." They rode into Elk Hollow on a Sunday morning, just as the church bells were ringing. The whole town stopped to stare. Women grabbed their children. Men reached for weapons they weren't carrying. Someone screamed. Cole and Evelyn rode straight to the church and dismounted. Sheriff Dawson was waiting on the steps, his hand on his pistol. "Mr. Barrett, Mrs. Hart, you're both under arrest." "For what?" Cole asked. "Trespassing, assault, attempted murder. Take your pick." "Attempted murder. We were defending ourselves." "That's not how Mr. Vance tells it. I'm sure it's not." Dawson pulled out handcuffs. "Come peacefully or don't. Either way, you're coming with me." "Wait," Cole said. "No waiting. I have evidence that Vance tried to murder us." That stopped him. "What kind of evidence?" Dawson asked. "Witness testimony. 4 men willing to swear that Vance paid them to burn us out, that he specifically ordered them to make sure Mrs. Hart didn't survive." Dawson looked uncomfortable. "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth." "You got these witnesses here?" "They'll be here, but I want to make my statement in front of the whole town, in front of everyone who condemned us without hearing our side." "That's not how this works." "Then change how it works." Dawson looked at Cole, then at Evelyn, then at the crowd gathering around them. "Fine," he said finally. "You get 10 minutes, then you're under arrest." "Fair enough." They walked into the church together. The congregation went silent. Every eye turned to watch them. Vance was sitting in the front row looking calm and confident. Boone stood at the pulpit, his face a mask of disapproval. Cole walked to the front of the church and turned to face everyone. "Most of you know me," he said. "Cole Barrett. I've lived in this valley for 15 years, paid my taxes, minded my business, never caused trouble." People shifted in their seats. "And most of you know Mrs. Hart, or think you do. You've heard the stories, that she killed her husband, that she's dangerous, that she's everything wrong with this town." Evelyn stood beside him, her chin raised. "But here's what you don't know," Cole continued. 3 months ago, I found her on a mountain trying to build a cabin before winter killed her. She was alone, scared, running from people who decided she was guilty without ever asking for her side of the story." He paused, looking at Vance. "I helped her. Not because I wanted something, Not because I was trying to save her, but because it was the right thing to do. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with her. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Last week, Edgar Vance sent 6 men to burn us out. They surrounded our cabin with kerosene and lit it on fire while we were inside. They shot me when I tried to escape, and they did all of this because Vance couldn't stand the idea that Mrs. Hart had found a life he couldn't control. "That's a lie," Vance said, standing up. "Is it? Then explain why 4 of the men you hired are willing to testify against you." Vance's face went pale. "I have signed statements," Cole said, pulling out the papers, "from Tommy Peterson, Jake Miller, Henry Cross, and David Walsh. All of them saying you paid them to burn the cabin. All of them saying you wanted Mrs. Hart dead." The church erupted in noise, people shouting, Vance denying everything, Boone calling for order. Sheriff Dawson pushed through the crowd and took the papers from Cole. He read them, his expression darkening with each page. "These men willing to testify in court?" he asked. "Yes." "Under oath?" "Yes." Dawson looked at Vance. "Mr. Vance, I'm going to need you to come with me." "This is absurd. Those men are lying." "We'll let a judge decide that." "I'm a respected member of this community. You can't seriously—" "I'm serious as a heart attack. Now come with me or I'll arrest you right here in front of everyone." Vance looked around the church, searching for allies. But people were looking at him differently now, with suspicion, with doubt. He'd lost them. "This isn't over," Vance said to Cole. "Yeah," Cole replied. "It is." Dawson led Vance out of the church in handcuffs while the entire congregation watched in stunned silence. Cole turned to Evelyn. "You okay?" "I think so." "You did good." "I didn't do anything." "You stood there. That took guts." Evelyn looked at the people staring at them. "What now?" "Now we wait for the trial." The trial took place 3 weeks later. The courtroom was packed. Everyone in El Colo showed up, along with people from neighboring towns who'd heard about the case. It was the biggest thing to happen in the valley in years. Vance hired the best lawyer money could buy, a slick talker from Denver who wore expensive suits and smiled too much. Cole and Evelyn had Walter. It wasn't a fair fight, but it was the fight they had. Tommy Peterson testified first. He was nervous, stumbling over his words, but he told the truth. About the meeting, the money, Vance's orders. The lawyer tore into him, accusing him of lying for attention, of being drunk, of making it all up. But Tommy held firm. "I know what I heard, and I know what we did, and I'm sorry for it." Jake Miller testified next, then Henry Cross, then David Walsh. Each time the story was the same. Vance had paid them. Vance had planned it. Vance had wanted Evelyn dead. The lawyer tried to discredit them all, but their stories matched too well, and there were too many of them to all be lying. Then Evelyn took the stand. The lawyer came at her hard, asking about her husband's death, about the fire, about why she'd been alone on the mountain. "You killed your husband, didn't you?" the lawyer asked. "No, but he died in a fire that started in your home. He was drunk. He threw a lamp at me. It hit the wall and the house went up." "That's a convenient story." "It's the truth." "Can you prove it?" "No, but I can tell you that I tried to save him, that I pulled him toward the door until the smoke got too thick, that I barely made it out alive myself. And yet you're here, and he's not." Evelyn's hands were shaking, but her voice stayed steady. "Yes, I'm here because I survived, and I'm not going to apologize for that anymore." The courtroom went quiet. "I spent 5 years being afraid," Evelyn continued, "afraid of my husband, afraid of what people would think, afraid to stand up for myself. But I'm done being afraid. I'm done letting men like you and Vance decide what I deserve." "Mrs. Hart, I'm not finished." "Want to know the truth?" "The truth is, I'm glad my husband is dead. Not because I killed him, but because dying was the only way he was ever going to stop hurting me. And if that makes me a bad person in your eyes, then fine. I'll be a bad person, but I'll be a bad person who survived." The lawyer tried to respond, but he couldn't. There was nothing left to say. Cole testified last. He told them about finding Evelyn on the mountain, about helping her build the cabin, about falling in love with her. "Why?" the prosecutor asked. "Why would you risk everything for a woman you barely knew?" "Because she reminded me what it was like to feel alive," Cole said. I'd spent 3 years going through the motions, pretending I was fine when I wasn't. And then I met her, and for the first time since my wife died, I felt something other than empty. That's not a reason to break the law. We didn't break any laws. We built a cabin on public land. We defended ourselves when someone tried to kill us. If that's illegal, then half the people in this valley are criminals. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the foreman stood up and read the verdict. On the charge of attempted murder, we find the defendant, Edgar Vance, guilty. The courtroom erupted. Vance jumped to his feet. This is a travesty. I'll appeal. The judge slammed his gavel. Mr. Vance, you are hereby sentenced to 15 years in the territorial prison. Bailiff, remove him. They dragged Vance out while he screamed about injustice and corruption and how he'd make them all pay. But no one was listening anymore. The judge turned to Cole and Evelyn. As for you two, the charges of trespassing and assault are dismissed. Furthermore, I'm granting Mrs. Hart a formal claim to the land where her cabin stood. It's hers now, legally and permanently. Evelyn looked stunned. What? You improved the land before Mr. Vance filed his claim. That gives you priority. The land is yours. But the cabin can be rebuilt, and will be if I know this community. The judge smiled. Court is adjourned. The town surprised them. Starting the next day, people began showing up at the burned cabin site with lumber, tools, and supplies. Not everyone, not even most, but enough. Men who'd ignored Evelyn before now worked alongside her. Women who'd pulled their children away now brought food and helped with the cooking. They didn't apologize, didn't make speeches. They just showed up and worked. Why are they doing this? Evelyn asked Walter. Guilt, mostly. They know they were wrong. This is how they make it right. It doesn't make it right. No? But it's a start. The new cabin rose faster than the old one. It was bigger this time, sturdier, with a real stone chimney and proper windows and a floor that didn't shift under your feet. Cole worked as much as his shoulder would let him, which wasn't much at first. Mostly he directed and planned and tried not to get in the way. Evelyn did everything. She hammered, she sawed. She lifted beams that should have been too heavy for her. And slowly, the cabin became a home again. On a warm day in April, they finished the roof. Cole climbed up to help with the last few shingles, ignoring the protests from everyone below. Evelyn was already up there, covered in sweat and sawdust. You're supposed to be resting, she said. I'm tired of resting. Your shoulder is fine. It wasn't fine. It would never be fine. But it worked, and that was enough. They hammered in the last shingle together, then sat on the roof looking at the valley below. You ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't stopped that day? Cole asked. When? The first time I saw you, dragging that log up the mountain. If I just kept walking. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. I would have died. Probably before Christmas. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Why did you stop? I don't know. Something about the way you were moving, like you'd rather die than give up. I was stubborn. You still are. So are you. Cole smiled. Yeah, I am. They sat there as the sun started to set, painting the valley in shades of gold and red. Cole? Evelyn said. Yeah? Will you marry me? Cole looked at her surprised. What? You heard me. Will you marry me? I thought I was supposed to ask you. Why? Because you're the man? Well, yeah. That's stupid. I want to marry you, so I'm asking, will you? Cole felt something warm spread through his chest. Yes? Yes? Yes. I'll marry you. Evelyn smiled, that rare, beautiful smile that made the scar on her face look like a badge of honor instead of a mark of shame. Good, she said, because I wasn't taking no for an answer. They got married a month later, not in the church. Neither of them wanted that. Instead, they stood on the porch of their new cabin with Walter officiating and half the valley watching. It wasn't fancy. Evelyn wore a simple dress someone had lent her. Cole wore his cleanest shirt. The rings were plain silver bands they'd bought in town. But when Walter asked if they took each other, they both said yes without hesitation. And when Cole kissed his wife, the valley erupted in cheers. The celebration lasted all day. People brought food and music and stories. They danced in the clearing where the old cabin had burned. They drank Walter's terrible whiskey and pretended it was good. And for the first time in years, Elk Hollow felt like a community instead of a collection of people living near each other. As the sun set, Cole and Evelyn stood together watching their neighbors pack up and head home. "You think it'll last?" Evelyn asked. "What?" "This. People being decent." "I don't know. Maybe, maybe not." "That's not very optimistic." "I'm not an optimist. I'm a realist." "What's the difference?" "A realist knows that people are complicated, that they'll disappoint you and surprise you, and sometimes both at the same time, but they keep trying anyway." Evelyn leaned against him. "You think we'll be okay?" "Yeah, I do." "How do you know?" "Because we've already survived the worst. Everything else is just details." Summer came and went, then fall, then winter again. But this time, when the snow came, they were ready. The cabin was warm and solid, the pantry was full, the firewood was stacked high. And they weren't alone. They'd built something together, something that went beyond four walls and a roof, something that couldn't be burned or taken or destroyed by men like Vance. They'd built a life, not a perfect life. They still fought, still disagreed, still drove each other crazy on a regular basis. But it was theirs, and that was enough. One evening in late December, they sat by the fire while wind howled outside. "You ever regret it?" Evelyn asked. "Regret what?" "All of this. Helping me. Fighting for me. Almost dying for me." Cole thought about it, really thought about it. "No," he said finally. "I don't." "Why not?" "Because before I met you, I was just existing, going through the motions, waiting to die without admitting that's what I was doing. But you changed that." "How?" "You showed me what it means to fight for something, to refuse to give up even when the whole world is against you, to choose to live instead of just survive." Evelyn was quiet for a moment. "I learned that from you too." "Learned what?" "That I don't have to do everything alone. That letting someone in doesn't make me weak. That love isn't about control or possession. It's about choosing each other every single day." Cole pulled her close. "Even on the bad days?" "Especially on the bad days." They sat there in the firelight, two broken people who'd found a way to be whole together. Outside, the snow fell heavy and thick, but inside, they were warm, and for the first time in either of their lives, they were home. Years later, people in Elk Hollow would tell the story of the scarred widow and the cowboy who loved her. They'd tell it to their children, who'd tell it to theirs. Some versions made them heroes, some made them fools. Some couldn't decide which, but the truth, the real truth, was simpler than any story. Two people who'd lost everything found each other in the worst possible circumstances. They fought. They survived. They built a life from nothing but stubbornness and spite and a kind of love that didn't quit even when it should have. They weren't perfect, weren't saints, weren't even particularly special. They were just two people who refused to let the world break them. And sometimes that's all it takes.